Welcome to the Gen X Experience, the podcast that celebrates the unique journey of 80s kids navigating midlife. I'm your host, Blythe Alperin. Each episode, my guests and I will share with you the unique differences that define our generation and how we are navigating those differences in the real world. Join me for laughs, insights, and a sense of community. Let's embrace the Gen X Experience together. Welcome back to the Gen X Experience. This is episode 53. And today we are wrapping up our series on making friends in midlife and why it's so challenging. And for this episode, I have a repeat guest, Alex Berberian. He was on our podcast a couple seasons ago, and he reached out to me. He's like, I want to talk about this. So I invited him on. He is the former co-host of Driveway Beers podcast. And as he likes to say, he's just generally a fun human being. And I have to agree because chatting with him again was really fun. And I hope you enjoy this episode. We get into why it's so difficult to make friends from the male perspective, which you will see is just, it's the human perspective. At our age, it's just challenging for a variety of reasons. And I think myself and all of my guests have pretty much covered the reasons. Did we solve the problem? Not yet, but scientists are working on it. Actually, I hope they are. Psychologists, therapists, somebody figure this out so it can be easier. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy our conversation as I hope that you enjoy all of our conversations, just hearing from fellow Gen Xers and finding stuff to relate to and learning from, or just laughing and enjoying what we have to say. So without further ado, let's finish up this series on making friends in midlife and why it's so challenging with my guest, Alex Berberian. All right, Alex, I think you're the first repeat guest. I'm very excited to have you on, and thank you for those of you listening. You know that we covered why it's so hard to make friends in midlife in general, but mostly from the female perspective. So when Alex messaged me, I was like, "Thank you," because I was just telling him before we started, I wanted the male perspective. So let's just dive right into this. I know you listened. You said you listened to the previous episode. Were there commonalities that you saw, or did you be like, "No, that's not the same"? Yes, that's the same from being a guy and trying to make friends.
It was very, very similar. I will put it that way. And I also want to thanks for having me come back. This is actually the first time I've been a repeat guest on someone's show. So this is a first for both of us. But yeah, so as I was listening to it, I was like, oh yeah, this resonates 100%. In fact, I would actually say, so I'm 47, so I'm closer to my 50s. And I would say that as we've gotten older, we've lost more friends than we've gained. And a lot of it is, I think when we're younger, we're willing to put up with more. I don't want to call it disrespect. I want to call it like you just feel like you haven't been treated the way you want to be treated by certain friends, and eventually your either ability or your desire to deal with that goes way down. So you tend to lose more friends, and not like it's a huge confrontation. You just stop. You stop reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they don't reach out because they probably never did to begin with. And so you just kind of let it go. But then it's a matter of, okay, when you're trying to add another friend, like you're looking for certain qualities maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I'm getting older, I'm finding that a lot of people don't have those qualities that I'm looking for to be friends with. So I just give up and like, you know what? I'm good. I'll just be a hermit in my basement and be fine.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, bringing up that, like, when you're younger, yeah, you put up with things, one, 'cause you're, like, in your 20s, you're just trying to figure your life out because 'cause you're like, "Okay, now I'm an adult, and I'm supposed to do adult things, and I'm supposed to," and you're trying to juggle work and all that stuff, and, you know, maybe you're still in college or graduate, whatever, but, like, you do put up with things because you don't know any better, or you do, but you're just like, "Well, maybe that's how it is," and as you get older, yeah, you want, people that are gonna show up for you and that you're not always the one reaching out, and so it
Well,
does,
yeah.
your friendship gets smaller, and sometimes people just kind of fall by the wayside.
My wife actually came up with a rule, and I'd say this is probably it was like just before COVID, and we're usually the planners of things. So like I'll plan stuff for my guy friends to do. She'll plan stuff for her girlfriends to do. But then you start to realize that, other people aren't doing that in return, I guess. Or
Mhm.
now sometimes it's just not who they are. Like I've got a buddy of mine who I play golf with. If I don't reach out to him, I will never hear from him. But if I reach out, he'll always say yes. So it's not that he doesn't want to. He's just not the planner of things. That's just not the way he is. So I understand that part of it. But my wife came up with this thing where she'll reach out and invite people to do something, and she'll do that one more time. So she'll give it 2 times. And if it isn't reciprocated, then she just lets it go. And so because after a while, if you're the planner of the things, you would like it if someone else planned the thing and included you.
Yeah.
It's like a reciprocity thing. It's kind of like a respect or a reciprocity thing. And so eventually she was just like, you know what? If this isn't happening, I'm not going to plan it for people who don't, what's the word? Not
Reciprocate.
expect, reciprocate or appreciate it.
Appreciate. Yeah. Yes.
And it's not a matter of, hey, you have to now plan something. But it could also just be like, hey, just reaching out and say, hey, how are you doing? Right? Like there's some people you just don't get anything back from. And I think as we get older, we're just like, you know what? We tend to we tend to notice the reciprocity more or less. Like when we're younger, especially I think they're people are still finding out who they are. You don't know who the planner of a group is. You don't know who the fun one is. You don't really know yet. You don't know your role in life. And then as you get older, people just start to kind of enter a silo of this is who I am, this is who they are, and then but the people who plan things, they they don't plan it because they like it. They plan it because they're probably a type A personality who likes to get things done, and other people talk a talk and they don't walk a walk type of thing. But you want to do this thing, you're like, you know what? I'm going to bring some people along and see if they want to do it too. And then after a while, you're just like, well, wait a minute. I'm not getting invited to some things, or I don't hear from this person. It's just like, okay, maybe they just don't want to do something with me. And you just decide, like, I'm not gonna. If they don't want to do something with me, I don't want to do something with them. It's like the thing where it's like if they don't like me, I don't like them. It turns into that, which is a crazy idea, but I get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like with your friend, right? If you figure out someone like they're never going to plan stuff, but they are always down to do whatever I want to do. They always respond. They're appreciative of it. Like, hey, thank you for planning this. Like, they might tell you, like, I that's not my thing, but I will be there. Then you're not going to be annoyed with them. But yeah, when you're like, how about this? How about this? And people either don't respond or yeah, they don't say thank you. Not that you're doing it to get a thank you, or they don't plan things. You're like, because I like to, because I want to do stuff and I like to plan things. But after a while, I'm like, I'm tired of being the one that's always suggesting, like, "Can please somebody else do it?" Because, like, also as an adult, I'm like, I'm and a single person, like, I'm doing everything. Can someone just every once in a while, can somebody else be like, "Where are we going? How about here?" Yeah. Or like, I love when you get, "What should we do?" I'm like, "I don't know. You ask. Why don't you tell
Right.
me?" Yeah. No, I like your wife's idea. Like, you try it a couple times and you're like, "Well, I'm not gonna, yeah, keep planning everything." It's
And
tiring.
especially as like a couple, it's very hard to find another couple that is into the same thing you are. For example, like my wife and I, we're not bar people. Like we're not out going to get drunk people. Like we're more like, hey, let's come over. You come over. You guys come over. We'll order food in and we'll play like board games or something, or we'll go out to dinner, something like that. But we're not going to like. It's not like, oh, I've got time away from my kids. Let's go get drunk.
Right.
It's not that anymore.
Yeah.
Not that it ever was. We were never really those people to begin with, but it is kinda hard to find people that share your interests, I guess, at an older age, and it's all like, "Hi, do you do you like games?" Right? "I like games too, yay, let's get together." It's like, it's so weird. You know what? Maybe it should be like that. Maybe I just put like a name tag on and be like, "Don't ask me stupid shit," right? Like,
Right.
we'll just start it right there. Like, or I'll be like, "Do you like board games or do you like movies?" Or something like that. Just be like, "That's it. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
put out there."
Well, you bring up an interesting point because, like, there's trying to find friends as, just a person, whether you're a woman or a man or whatever you wanna call yourself. And then there's if you are in a relationship, trying to find couple friends because, like, maybe, yeah, maybe you like the husband, but your wife doesn't like the wife, or vice versa, or, like, you don't have all that in common, and then so you try to go out with these people because you hear stories like, "So we went out, and we were talking, and they weren't talking, and it was so awkward." So, like, it brings another layer 'cause I'm sure as a yeah, in a relationship, like, you'd like to have some couple friends, like, you wanna have your time away, but, like,
Yeah.
is do you are there any I mean, I don't know if you know this or not. Are there groups out there? Is there a way like, since you have kids, is that a way to meet couple friends, or is it just kind of luck of the draw?
So, I think for the most part, I think people with kids, especially young kids, they tend to meet other friends through their kids' activities. So, like, whether like, I got 2 girls, so, like, my girls do Girl Scouts, they play softball, one's in marching band, and so I don't I it's weird, like, you don't wanna be like, especially as the kids are older, you don't wanna be like, "Hey, our kids are friends, do you wanna be friends too?" Because that's just awkward, right? And then the other thing is, like, you don't know if other people are looking to be friends with people. Like, that's another part of it. Like, when you get older, you have no idea, like, what everyone's situation is. Like, I know people who, like, you would think their families are intertwined with how much they do together and how much time they spend together, right? And so it's like, okay, I'm not wedging myself in there. I'm not gonna be third wheel in that. It's just so weird. So and it's like, at what point are you just like, "You know what? At this point, I'm friends with my wife, and that's good enough." But
Right.
at the same time, it's like, I do like doing things when it's just guys that go do things, and she likes doing things when it's just girls that do things, and luckily, I mean, she still has friends from college, whereas I really don't talk to anyone I went to school with. So it like, the people that I'm more friends with are some people in the neighborhood, I would
Mhm.
guess. But even then, it's like, for example, the guy Mike who I used to do the show with, good friend of mine, but, he's got 3 boys, I have 2 girls, and obviously interests split, so the things that we used to were able to meet up together and do with the kids, well, now that's not really happening, right? So, not that we're any less friends, we just have less time to spend together and do something. So, I don't really have an answer for, how do you make friends as a 40-something adult anymore? In fact, I'm waiting for the answer myself, so if anyone has it, maybe they can leave a comment on the bottom of this podcast or send a message, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I see groups on and I've tried some of them out. I'm actually trying another one out in October, but it is I do notice there's a lot of groups like women only. I'm like, "That's fine," but and then there are some things like Time Left, I think 222 and Nice to Meet that do have guys come. And, it's like, I think on one of them, if you are interested in dating or if, like, you are a couple, you can say that, so maybe they'll have but yeah, I feel like even with those groups, like, sometimes I've gone to things and there's no follow through. I'm like, "So why did you come to that?" Like, if you I wish they had a thing where you're like, "I just wanna go out to dinner and try new restaurants and just have a cool conversation, but I'm not looking to be friends," which is totally fine. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to make so much of an effort, which is also an impediment because 'cause you're like, "Okay, I'm working, I have a life, I might have kids, I might be taking care of parents, all the things that are going on. I'm like, "Oh, and now I have to try to make friends, and it's already hard." So what yeah, it is definitely, a challenge. But let me ask you quick, 'cause like I know I said in the when I had all the girls on from my dinner group, like I said, women could just kind of go up to someone and go, "Oh my God, I love your shoes," and start a conversation. As a guy, like, obviously, you're not gonna say, "I like your shoes," but is there something?
Right.
Can you do something like that? Or is that weird to be like, you see them, like, at a kid's game and you're like, "Hey," you start talking to them. Can you do that? Can that lead to friendship, or is that just awkward and weird?
So I think it depends on the person. I would say for guys, it's more along the lines of if I've seen someone more than once in a different place or even the same place. So let's say, for example, I'm taking my kid to practice or something, and I see the same person twice. After a while, like after passing the person or standing next to the person and just kind of doing a head nod seems a little awkward at that point. It's like, look, we've done 30 head nods. At
Right.
some point, let me tell you what my name is. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like we're obviously going to be in the same place at the same time for a considerable amount of time. So let's just get this out of the way and say what her name is. So I'm like, hey, my name's Alex. What's going on? And like, we seem to be at the same place at the same time. With guys, it's generally that straightforward. It's not like I'm going to create a scenario where like I feel like, oh hey, I like your shirt. Where I really don't like your shirt. I just wanted to say hi. Right. Like, wow, I think that shirt looks really creepy on you. But hey, what's your name? Like, I don't think guys go about it that way. It's more of, it's like, hey, we're obviously in the same place. So either we have the same interest or we have the same obligation. So why don't we just get this introduction out of the way and then it's weird. Like, it's not like an instant conversation happens. I would say guys are extremely weird in that way. Like
Weird.
95% of us don't want new friends to begin with. So it's like the introduction is like when you're interacting with a person, I would say you can tell within the first 5 minutes if you're bothering that person or if they
Mhm.
have an actual interest to meet someone else. And so if you feel like you're bothering that person, they're clearly not in the market for a new friend. And then
Yeah.
the other part of it is I would say if there's no other tie-in, like it's almost like, okay, if we're here at this thing together and we got to be here for an hour, yeah. The more and more you talk, so, like, the first time it's, like, 10, 15 minutes, and then it's a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then next thing you know, you're sitting at your kid's practice, and you're chatting for the whole hour or so. Or and I guess another one is that you have mutual enemies, like, "Hey, I hate this person too, let's talk and be friends." Or who knows? there's there's so many different odd ways that guys become friends, and the funny thing is I've seen a lot of, like, women's observation of men. A lot of female comedians talk about this, like, the differences between how men and women, like, interact and whatnot. Or, I think Sebastian Maniscalco did a very funny bit about how, like, his wife will be friends with someone and they just throw their husbands into it. Like, "Oh, he likes baseball too," and, like, that's the thing that's supposed to be, like, how you interact and become friends, and oddly enough, though, 9 times out of 10, that's how it usually will start. It's like it starts with one thing that you have in common, and then you find out if the person's a complete psycho or not after as you talk to them.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like women will let it drag on a little bit longer, though.
Yeah.
We're like, "Yeah, she did this one psycho thing, but maybe she's not." And we'll see what happens the next 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then eventually it's like I almost feel like they get into the situation where it's like, "Okay, how do I get out of this? Because she really is nuts." Like, that wasn't the facade part. It's like, "I need to get out of this. How do I get out of it?" And so I feel like they just let it whereas guys, like, I think we kinda get a relatively good feel about it fairly quickly, or we keep it super light in the beginning and short where there isn't that much investment, so to get out of it isn't a it isn't a hard thing because you really weren't that in deep to begin with,
Right. Yeah.
so
Also women too, like, will, we'll go to we'll talk to that person, right? And then you leave and you're like, "Oh my god, I freaking hate her. She's awful." And like your
but then
boyfriend or
she'll
husband will
call
be
the
like,
next day, right?
yeah.
She'll call the next day and be like, "Oh, alright, maybe I'll give it a"
You're like, "Wait, I thought
where
you
I
hated her." "Oh, I
yeah,
do, but, she did this or whatever." And meanwhile, we do hate them, but we're like, yeah, we get ourselves like, "How do you get out of this?" Or you're like, "Oh god, I have to keep seeing this person. Like, what do I do?" And then everyone probably hates that person, but nobody is gonna, we're not, yeah, it's weird.
or and I'm gonna flip this around a little bit because or maybe they just have a really strange way about them where in the beginning you don't like, but but then you find out, like, their personality is they'll, give you the shirt off their back. I feel like there are a lot of those people. I almost tend to feel like I am one of those people where, like, I think I've had more arguments with people that I ended up being very close friends with later on. So, like, if they were to go off just the first, like, 5, 6 interactions or so, like, we probably never would have been friends. But at the same time, that those were also people that I kept having to interact with. So, like, it's like almost like I had to it's almost like I forced myself in on the person. It's like, "No, you will accept my personality, and you will like me as an individual." So I don't know. I would it's so individualistic, and I think and that's why I think those things where they have people come together, I don't think it should be man, woman, age, or whatever. It should all be based on personality type.
Yes. Yeah.
But then the
Because
person has to be honest about their personality. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm an introvert. I know people are like, "Well, you do a podcast." I'm like, "Yes, but this is but, like, going to an event, so I might be very quiet or sometimes I don't say anything or I'm constantly in my head like, "Am I talking too much? Am I not talking? Did I just say the dumbest thing ever?" So, so sometimes I just feel totally weird and awkward, always have. But yeah, some of those things I do feel like, I don't know if it should be a dinner of all introverts because maybe nobody would talk. But yeah, because a lot of times you go those things and it is based I do like, I think it should be a little bit on age because I don't wanna sit at a table with 20 somethings, nothing against them, but we're a totally
yeah,
different life thing. But yeah, it would be
yeah.
nice if it would also be personality because sometimes you're not gonna mesh with someone, and sometimes, like you said, you're gonna need to meet them a couple times, and then their personality is gonna come out, and your person is and you're gonna be like, "Oh, we are a match," or, "Oh, no, actually, we're not." So, yeah,
Well,
it's
and I think we gotta dispel this myth about introverts, by the way, because
yeah,
I am also an introvert, but I'm an extroverted introvert. Let's put it that way. So here's the thing. I think with introverts, they're not against interacting with people. It's just that our interaction tank is much smaller than the extrovert's tank to be extroverted.
yes.
So let's say, for example, I don't mind going out and doing something, but I'm good for like an hour, maybe 2, and then I wanna go home. Whereas my wife, she is an extroverted extrovert, or I would say she's an introverted extrovert. Like, she likes to be out and about, but she's very, I would say she's very shy about introducing herself to new people type of thing. Whereas me, I'll go up to anyone at any point in time and I will interject myself. Like, I have no problems being that guy. However, it's almost like I'm a robot in that hour number 2, I will completely shut down. I become grouchy and I need to get the hell out. And I'm done for the day. That's it. That's why that is my tank. My tank has been drawn down. I'm on E and I gotta go
Mhm.
home. And it's probably gonna take me 2 to 3 days to refill my tank.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think I'm extroverted to a point.
Yeah. Yes, and you can feel like, I've been at things where I'm like, "Oh, it's happening." The tank is it's about to
Oh, yeah.
plummet. Yeah,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
like,
It's like a feeling in the face where, like,
"Yes."
like, the anger feeling just starts to erupt, and it moves forward to your face. Like, I could feel my resting bitch face just coming out, where, like,
Yes.
people gotta be looking at me like, "You know what? I can't go near that because that's gonna explode." Like, "You're right, it is. I gotta leave."
Yeah, yeah, like, and it physically hurts, you're like, "Oh my god, can I please? I have to go home," and if you're sitting at a
Yeah.
table and you're like, "Can they please bring the check because I have no I have no more in me," and yeah, and it's exhausting, or you're at a ta I was at a dinner couple months ago, and there was, like, one woman who just would not shut up, and I was just and which is fine, like, sometimes you're like, "Please, can there be someone that starts the conversation?" But I was like, "If she doesn't shut up, I'm gonna punch her in the face," and I'm not a violent person, but I was just so annoyed because then I'm just sitting there, and then the couple people, like, they're like, "We gotta bring you back in the conversation." I wanna go, "Oh, I'd like to be part of the conversation, but this one over here, shut up." Which is another
Oh,
when you're an
so
introvert, you're like, I can't. This is exhausting already." I'm like, "30 minutes, I'm done."
as an introvert, once you're out, you're out. So, and it's not even a time-based thing, like you said, like, if I were to hear that person talk and she didn't shut up, within a few minutes, I would have been like, "I know exactly what this situation is. I know exactly how this is gonna go, and I'm not about it, so I'm out." Like,
Yeah.
why I don't know. I think I feel like other people just, like, either they don't recognize the situation or they're just really, really tolerant of it, and they're just like, "Oh, it is fine." Like,
Right.
"Mm-mm, this is not fine."
No,
This is
or you can see it
like
on their face, like, they're thinking the same thing,
yeah.
like, that yeah, yeah, which
Like,
is
if I'm
sometimes
sitting at a table of people and I'm dead quiet, that my wife knows she knows
it's
not to
out.
talk to me.
Yeah,
The only motion she can make to me is, like, she'll either give me the head nod to or the eyeballs to leave, and I'll just get up. I won't even, like, give her a head nod. I'll just get up, be like, "Yep, let's go. You read that situation correctly. It is time to go."
yeah, yeah, we're done, yeah, the hourglass has been tipped over and all the sand is out, yeah, it's yeah, and sometimes I wonder too, like, these things where it's like go to a dinner or whatever, like, Time Left has dinner runs, which I'm never doing the run, and coffee and drinks, and I'm like, it would be nice if they did events because I feel like if you're going to, like, volunteer I know people will do, like, pickleball or other sports, there's, like, a commonality like, you're there for a common reason, so I feel like the conversation can be a little bit easier, or there doesn't like, if you're playing sports, there doesn't have to be much conversation, or if you're playing board games, it's a little bit easier to just kinda interact
Yeah.
for an introvert, but yeah, sometimes I'm like, "Oh god, do these people have any awareness that they're A, or
Yeah.
other people in the world, and they don't need to dominate the conversation," or just yeah.
Yeah, this is one thing I don't get with the whole, group planned interaction at least at my age, stop making it something where I have to do something active. Like, stop with the running. I'm 47 years old. I'm not running anywhere, right? Like, and I get it. There are people that like to go run, and there's 47, 50, 80-year-olds that like to run. Go do your run before the activity. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't
Yeah,
make the activity about running, please. Or like,
right.
now I get, like, if you wanna make it an acti make it cornhole, like, where I don't have to move, like, I just have to swing my arm and throw a beanbag at something, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I will say this, though, I think you can find out and I would say it's almost like a two-part interaction. Do something competitive with people. Now,
Mm,
competitive people can suppress that competitiveness for at least one time, so you never get to see the true person, but by the second time, I feel like that they probably get a little more comfortable, and all of a sudden, you get to see the animal inside of
mm,
some of these people. And, like, whether because, like, if it's a super competitive person for example, like, we my wife's got a friend from college and her husband, and we'll play spades with them. We all have to take turns, and this includes her husband. We all have to take turns being her partner because of how competitive she is with spades.
wow.
Like, we know if we don't play correctly in her mind, that that person's head will get chopped off. So, I feel like and if you're meeting new people, you really need to be able to see that person come out before you decide if that's some people love those people, though. In fact, I
Mhm.
think the opposite person would probably be I don't wanna say attracted to because it's not like I wouldn't say on a dating scale. I'm just saying I'm talking purely on a friendship scale. I think it's great to have that person as a friend because they're gonna go rip someone's head off so I don't have to,
Yep.
because on the inside, I'll want to, but they'll just go and do it, and that's gonna be great.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, 'cause I'm like I mean, I'm more competitive with myself, but I am competitive, but I'm not the person that's gonna be like and another thing, I would love someone to be like, "All right, I got you. I know what we're both thinking, and we're gonna take this person down." Because inside, yeah, I want to rip their head off, and
everyone needs the John McEnroe in their life. Like, they need the person that's gonna throw the racket down and yell at the umpire, right, in the tennis match, rather than the person who's gonna be internally annoyed and want to do those things, right? Everyone like, I always put it like, everyone needs their John McEnroe to be their friend.
Yes,
You need the person that's gonna be the action person for your own anger.
yes,
It's like, let me stifle it down so I don't have to be the insane one, but I wanna be friends with the insane one because they're gonna do the thing I wanna do.
yeah,
So I just gotta find my John McEnroe. I find a lot of people, they play it safe, right? They're gonna go through life, they're gonna play it safe. It's interesting because if you're one of those people, and I am kind of the John McEnroe person of personal interactions. For example, like, especially when it comes to my kids. Like, we had an like, we went into this a long time ago on an old show of ours where we had an incident where some people, I thought, basically 40-year-olds did something horrible to a 12-year-old or
mhm,
11-year-old. Not like, not like in a weird way, just as far as like decision making and excluding and all this other stuff. And so I wasn't willing to accept that. And I told them all to go F themselves, basically. Now, oddly enough, they turned around like, and so they thought I was the a-hole because I decided to voice like how the situation went. And the funny part is certain things as we've gone through, and that was like 2, 3 years ago, and other things have happened since then with other people. And I found that I'm just not dealing with that bullshit. Like, I am not about letting people, I wouldn't say get away with it, but like I think most people know that people will not say anything. And so they're okay doing it because no one's going to hold them accountable to their face and say, hey, wait a minute, grown ass adult, this is not acceptable to do to a child or to whatever. And so I just think, and when it comes to adult experiences, I think there are a lot of people who just will accept whatever's thrown at them, whether they feel it's right or wrong. And then you've got people who will just say, no,
yep,
you're not going to do this shit. And uh, I personally would rather be friends with the person who's going to tell me I'm a shithead to my face. And I don't know if you allow curse. I forgot if you
yeah,
allow
yes,
cursing on
oh,
this,
yeah.
but okay. But
I
I
just
mean,
typed about not suitable for children.
well, I mean, it is. I mean, it is a Gen X podcast for the most part, and I got to imagine you have a hard time getting through it without any cursing because I feel like our generation curses like sailors.
We love the F word, the F bomb, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
You can't
I've been holding it in. I've
I
been making
always
sure I haven't said that one, but the other ones are
hence why I was like,
more.
the F bomb, because, yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's
They're
so
more
hard
so
to
the
not
other ones are more socially acceptable, like, shit is much more socially acceptable. Yeah, as far so, like, I would rather have the person tell me, "Hey, this isn't acceptable to me," because then I won't do it again, right? I'll respect that about the person and then not do it again. But I think a lot of people will take advantage of them knowing that others will not speak. They'll just internalize it, they'll take it, and then they don't have to feel bad about their decision. Whereas
Mhm.
I'm on the other hand, like, and I'm very surprised, like, it was funny, like, someone essentially was like, "Oh, well, you're just starting drama." Like, I didn't do the thing. I'm just the one that called you out for doing that thing. If that's causing drama in your eyes, then I'm pretty sure you're really unaware, not self-aware of your own crappiness.
Yes, accountability seems to be a word that has left a lot of people's vocabulary, like
Yeah.
and then, especially online, I'll see it, I'm like, the minute you hold someone accountable or, you say something, it's like, "You're just jealous." I'm like, "Oh, yes, please let me have a ton of money," like, with these influencers I cannot stand. "Let me have a ton of money and be a really bad person." I'm like, "I'd rather have no dollars in my bank account and be a good person because I can still make money than be a complete and total asshole and I'm, just getting away with it because people are like, "Oh, just let them live. Why do you care?" Because 'Cause they're a bad example to children, and because as an adult, we're supposed to be held accountable for our bad behavior. Like,
Well,
what?
and not just a bad example of the kids. I mean, if adults aren't out here thinking that they can be influenced, then they're
Like, oh, yeah.
absolutely living in a shell. Like, there are much smarter people who have done psychological experiments and they work at these social media companies and they know what gets you to be happy, sad, angry, all of the emotions. They know how to provoke your emotions and they know which emotions will get you to stay on that platform longer so they can make more money. And that's what all of that stuff is about. And even with even with like, for example, ChatGPT, let's just bring that one in. People are like, well, that's not a social media company. No, they're not, but they're going to operate like one, and how they get you to stay on the platform. It's why those platforms, people are realizing that they get information wrong because the platforms are trying to please you. And if
Yeah.
they please you, you'll stay on them longer and ask them more questions, right? But people in general are like that as well. And they do it without having the education and the knowledge on how to do it. But it's one of those things where, you know, podcasts have now gotten in that realm, and I wanna circle back to that part of where the podcast you were talking about and these people making all this money. I find it funny that the podcasts from celebrities tend to have the most listens because people wanna hear what celebrities have to say. When the personality, if they don't own the production company, they're being paid by a production company to be there, and if they weren't there, they wouldn't be on a microphone. Whereas a lot of independents, and there are a lot of them out there, but they don't get pushed in the algorithm, the Spotify algorithm or the Apple algorithm. They're not put in front of your face like some of these other ones are because they're not paid to be. Like, I know like a lot of the comedians, it's like the Theo Vons, the Joe Rogans, and all those, with the exception of the Rogan show, the other comedians are all part of a collective. And that collective pays for those shows to be put in front of, like when you open Spotify, they're the ones that show up first.
Right.
And then the other part of it is I'm almost positive the listens aren't natural listens for those shows. What they'll do, they'll pay some, and anyone can do this. Any podcaster can go on like a Fiverr or any kind of other platform, and you can pay for organic listens. You can pay for enough hours on YouTube to get yourself monetized. And
Yeah.
so a lot of and so a and that's how they also manipulate the algorithm as well. So what'll happen is if they get a lot more listens, the algorithm thinks that the show is popular, and they put them in front of more people to get more listens. When in fact, the listens that algorithm is basing it off of were all paid for.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if independents like your podcast or ours was, or there a bunch of other ones, they're not doing that because we thought it just would have been completely inorganic to do. And it's like, why on earth would I pay to have someone listen to my show when I actually want people to listen to the show?
Right.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Well, it gets you in front of more people to find it, and then, like, you know what? I'm not playing the game.
No, and it
But
feels
yeah,
unethical too. Like, and they do that on social media. Like, people started to figure it out, like, on social media. It's like they're these huge accounts and they have all these followers, but then you look at their engagement and there's, like, no engagement because the bots aren't, or yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah. That's a
yeah,
big
and
indicator.
yeah,
Like,
and
if
sometimes
someone has, like, 1,000,000 subscribers and they have, like, maybe 20,000 comments,
yeah.
that's a huge difference there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it's funny with celebrities because, like, sometimes they're just not that interesting to listen to. They have nothing you can tell, like, oh, someone told them this would be good for their image or good for business or, it's just another way, like, to make money. I mean, there are some like, I used to listen I think one of the first I mean, I don't know if Mark Maron, I wouldn't call him, like, a huge celebrity, but he was one of the first podcasts I used to listen to all the time, and
Mhm.
because he was a good interviewer, and also in his early days, he's just crapped all over himself, like, he's like, "I'm just grumpy," and I'm like it was kind of fun watching him evolve. I know Amy Poehler is very popular. I haven't because I have subscribed to too many podcasts, and I've seen clips, and she's just funny and interesting, but there are some celebrities I'm like, "You're talking out of your ass about stuff you know nothing about, and it's very obvious that you're just getting a paycheck." And meanwhile, there are people who have smaller podcasts that are doing a better job. But yeah, you're competing
Yeah.
against, private equity, celebrities, yeah, it's real fun.
Well, yeah, you're just dealing with people that have bigger pockets too. So it's like,
Yeah.
for example, like I don't know the name of the podcast, but it's the one like Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell. Like they have a very large
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes.
I feel like if I listen to that one, it's like I'm almost listening to people who have no clue what it's like to live in the real world because both of them were actors fairly young.
Yeah.
So, like, it's almost like someone saying that, like, because LeBron James was poor at the age of 14, he can now relate to the rest of the world. The problem was, ever since he was 15, he's been getting paid under the table, and then he
Yeah.
went and got his NBA contract, and, like, the guy was only poor for he's been filthy rich for much longer than when he was filthy poor, you know what I mean? So, it's
Yes.
like, I don't and in his adult life, he's never lived in the real world. So, like, I especially with athletes, like, I think it's funny they think they can try and relate to people and
and
that
they
live normal,
can't.
regular lives.
Yeah,
And
and there's
celebrities and athletes, it's like they can't. None of them can.
no, and there's no shame in saying that you can't because it's true. Like, you know, I like grew up as like not that I was super rich or anything, but like my dad was an orthodontist, my mom was a dental hygienist. They worked very hard, and I grew up with like I didn't get everything I wanted because they were not going to do that. But like, there were things that I didn't realize. So I've gotten like, yeah, my parents paid for our college. Yes, I worked in their office. My parents, there are certain things that we went on vacation and like that I just thought everybody did because that was my life, and I did have friends that did that. And then I do have to remind myself, like, no, I did have some privilege that other people didn't. And so sometimes maybe I can't relate to people, or at least I try to, or I will admit, like, I don't know what it's like to live like that. I don't know what it's like to be that person. But I think a lot of people forget that, not just celebrities, but even people in general. You can have conversations. You're like, do you have any empathy for anyone else? Do you like think outside of your own bubble that maybe, there are other people suffering, or maybe, you have a different lived experience and maybe be open to I think that can also be a challenge, like, to bring it back a little bit to making friends, like, sometimes trying to
Yeah.
relate to people who, have a different life than you, or even just trying to you're like, "Do you have any perspective of of anything? Or are you just in your little bubble, and do you wanna just feed that bubble too?"
I think a lot of it comes down to self-awareness, and I think
Yeah.
that's what you're describing, right?
Yeah.
It's like what you just described, so you described basically how you grew up, but you also described, a self-awareness of, yes, look, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I call it two-parent privilege. I had 2 parents, and I'm not saying divorced or not divorced, because there are some divorced parents that they interact very well together, and they so essentially there's still 2 parents interacting, and the parents aren't fighting all the time, but even as someone, so, like, I'm in the same boat. Like, I was a military kid, so I moved around. I went to, like, I think it was n 9 different schools in 9 different years. But my parents were together, and it was a different upbringing. Like, it wasn't like I'm not saying it like, it wasn't good or bad, right? It was just what it was. It was just how we were brought up. And like you, my parents told me from a young age, like, your inheritance is going to be your college education. So I had my college paid for. Now, my wife, on the other hand, same thing. She had two parents growing up. She did not have her college paid for it. So I got a student loan without having student loans, which is great. So, but I think, and I don't, but I know people that have grown up in two-parent households that don't have self-awareness. It's like, so like my dad always put it to me this way, and he would always say, you part of it was, you don't understand how fortunate you are that you were born and raised in this country. And that was the way he always put it, in that perspective. Basically, because he's like, you could have been born in this country with this kind of oppression, or this country with this kind of, with all the war and all this stuff. And then the other part of it was just a matter of, not that I wouldn't say that we never had to worry about money, because we did. Like, when I was younger, I mean, shoot, I was down to my last $10 on my bank account, but I always had the tools to, like, go earn more money, right? Or at least the self-awareness to go, like, "Look, you're broke. Don't go to the bar," or, "You're broke. Don't go do this. You have to save for this." But I think a lot of the problem is, you've got a lot of people out there who never endured struggle, but think that they have.
Yeah.
And therefore, they think they can relate to people that have had struggle, who have been in that situation where they don't have any, where they literally didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And it's like, you've never really been there. It's like, I don't know if you can really relate until you've been to that place, but at the same time, you've got people who have never been to that place, but have enough empathy to be like, I could see myself being really worried about that situation, and I'll relate to that person, the fact that if I was in that situation, I would feel that way. Not that you were ever in that situation, but I think that, like, if we're gonna tie it back into making friends, like, you really just have some people that I don't even know the word for it, like, just like, they're so out of touch with almost everything, and it's like, I just can't deal with that. Like, not that I want someone to be remorseful, it's like, I'm not looking for that, but it's just like, it ties into the rest of the personality, I think. Like, there I'm, like, going through the Rolodex of people in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, that person." I don't know, like, I can't pinpoint it. You can't really put a finger on what it is, but you're just like, I just don't wanna be friends with that person, or for whatever reason, because they're just so out of touch with anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't see past their own, their own life, their own experience, and yeah, like you said, you may not have experienced not being able to feed yourself, but that doesn't mean you can't feel like, "God, what if that happened to me? I can't like, what would I feel like?" And try to, empathize with someone and try to, like, understand, or at least want to know what their experience is like because that's one of the things, and I say this all the time, why I love this podcast because I like talking to Gen Xers that are different ages and can grow up differently because we're not a monolith, which I think people think generations are, but it's just interesting to hear people's stories and go, oh, I never thought about that. Or, wow, I didn't experience that, but I'm learning from you. And then other people are hearing it too. And I think with friends, like sometimes as you get older, you're like, okay, because when you're younger, you're like, yeah, I'll look past that. But now you're like, okay, we don't share the same values. This person doesn't want to learn anything. They think they're always right or whatever, and even and not to get political, but it's so weird too when we were younger. You could be friends with someone who you weren't on the same side because you could respectfully be like, we agree to disagree, or you could find commonality. Now I feel like people are like, yeah, just no. I'm not going to listen to you. I don't want to. It's just like that's another layer that can sometimes make it hard to meet people and stay friends.
So I've kind of got the opposite opinion on that. I think in the real world, I wouldn't say in the real world. I do think it depends on the person because you do have some people that are so hardline in their political views. And we did a lot of political stuff on our show, even though it wasn't supposed to be that way. It's just kind of where it ended up. And we had some people on that were not of our political viewpoint, although to be honest with you, our political viewpoint was all over the place. So it's hard to pin down what we were. Like when we were ranked in the podcast listings, I think we were ranked like on the conservative and the liberal podcast lists, which was I don't even know how that happened, but we ended up talking with a guy who used to work on Al Gore's presidential campaign. So he was far left, and then we had some from our friends on that are pretty hard right. And I think one of the things that we realized was there's a lot more people. I would say there's a silent 85% or a silent 80% of the country that has very common sense viewpoints on things. And then you've got the 10% left and 10% right that are super hard line on whatever their policies are. And those are the ones you're never going to talk to and convince. In fact, those are the ones that are going to try and shout you down when you do open your mouth. For example, I know like Mike and I we're very much Second Amendment guys. Whereas, like, I don't own a gun, but I'm very pro Second Amendment. I mean, figure that one out, right? Like someone who's usually pro Second Amendment should have an NRA membership behind. Like I should have an NRA written up there, and I should have a gun rack back there too. I don't own a single gun in my home. I don't belong to the NRA, but I do believe that the Second Amendment is appropriate. And there are people that would shout me down for having that viewpoint. Like, well, how can you be both? Because I know there's nuance in these topics. Like there's nuance in everything. And then the funny part is like when we had talked about healthcare in particular. And this is one thing where I'm probably the most liberal person on earth because I think there should be free healthcare for everybody. But I also don't trust the government to implement it because they've shown themselves to screw it up every which way they can. And money goes to the like conglomerates, and it's almost like a handout for big corporations. So I don't trust the government to do it anyway. And so when I was talking to the person who worked on Al Gore's campaign, someone who is a staunch Democrat and whatnot, and he said, and he was like, well, I understand that point of view. He goes, I can relate to that. And so literally it's one of those things where someone could be considered very conservative because they don't want the government to run healthcare, but then someone on the left could see the same point of view and see the reasoning behind it, right? And I think when you actually talk to people, and that was one of the things I think we were trying to do, and because we were moderates in a lot of things, I think it was easier for us to talk to certain people because we could say, hey, look, I've got some of these point of views that agree with you, but then I've got some of these point of views that don't. And it was easier to talk about the things that we didn't agree on because we had some common ground on the other issues as well. Whereas I think and those two in the 10% on either end of the spectrum, I really think there's no overlap in views for the most part, and I think a lot of that is tribal though, like, I think when people actually sit down and talk about their views, I think they find out they have a lot of things in common with people if they're willing to talk about it.
Yes.
But to not
Yeah.
to make this political, but to go back to, like, the thing where we were talking about friends, I do think people like myself are hard to be friends with, and I think that's part of this as well, and so but that's part of the self-awareness of it. Like, I know I'm probably not the easiest person to be a friend with because I do look at interactions and I'm probably going to scrutinize some shit. And someone's like, look, man, I just want to be friends. I don't want you to scrutinize every single thing I do. Right. And so I realize that as an individual, I'm probably not the easiest person to be a friend with, but I'm also very cognizant of that. So I try not to do those things. But so even as you and I are talking, we say, look, we find it hard to make friends. I'm also very, very well aware that I'm probably hard to be friends with. So like people like us that I don't know about you specifically, but I know I can sometimes tend to overthink something.
Same.
And so that's not the easiest person to get along with a lot of the time because I'm sure it leads to a lot of indecision. So, for example, like if I'm talking about a car purchase with a buddy of mine, generally within 2 months you'll have purchased the car and moved on. Me, I'll scrutinize that purchase for 8 months, 9 months, and this person's like, "We've had this conversation 25 times. Get over it already." And so, like, but being self-aware in that regard is like, okay, I know not to talk about that same conversation 25 times. I'll pull it back a little bit. Unless it's like a really close friend who knows who I am, they know what I am, and I'm just gonna and they know to expect that kind of thing, and they're very welcoming of that. But I do think as much as we kind of ragged on other people, like I am more than willing to rag on myself as the type of
Oh,
person that I am, and that
totally.
I am a tough person, tough individual to be friends with, but I'm also the type of person that when you need something, I'll be there. Or even if you just want something, doesn't have to be, even be a need. If you just want something, or I can make something more convenient that's an inconvenience to you. Like if you need me to go pick up your kid at something, I'm there. I'll go do it. You know, and like but I also ask people. Like I know like it's hard to ask people for help, so I've also been like trying to ask people for help when I need it, and I've done that too. And so some people either find that very endearing or they find it very annoying.
A Gen Xer that doesn't wanna ask for help? I mean, hello. I mean, I'm all
I
for
ask now.
that's good.
I've stopped being self-conscious about it. I just ask. I'm done. Because and I find most people wanna help.
They do, yeah,
Like, they really do. Like, they're like me, where I want to help someone get through life a little bit easier. Again, it doesn't have to be a need. It could just be, "Hey, man, I'm having a down day, or I'm going through some depression, but I gotta go pick up my kid. Would you mind picking up my kid?" "No problem, man. I got you."
yes.
And I think that there's a lot of people that have a problem, or not a problem, they have it they internalize the issue to the point where they're afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, I don't wanna
And
be
we
a
even talk about
burden, I don't yeah.
oh, and we even like, Mike and I would talk about men's mental health quite a bit because that's a big taboo topic,
Yes.
and we would both openly talk about our own issues as far as our own mental health, and we thought that was a very important part of the show at the time, and it still is, to be honest with you. I think more people have kinda picked up on the topic, but I don't think they hit on it in such a personal way. I don't think they relate it to themselves as much, but, um, hopefully that's maybe that's a podcast idea for someone out there in the future, but it's also tough to just stick to one topic and then create 52 shows a year on that one topic
Right.
without sounding repetitive.
Yes, yeah.
Like that was one of the biggest issues we had as a podcast was just not being repetitive, and we didn't succeed with it because we were repetitive quite a bit.
It's hard not to be too, because like, there are things that I definitely said and talk about. I'm like, I know I say this all the time, but and I'll phrase it like that, but no, I think especially as Gen Xers, like I've talked about my struggles with mental health and because I had severe depression and anxiety and a lot of like we were not raised to like therapy. And if you had, depression or what, like it was considered a flaw. And I'm like, it's not a flaw. Like it,
Right.
and it does make you, that's part of my struggle too. Is I'm like, well, I don't want to be a burden and I don't want to ask for help. Like I'll give help. You ask me for help, I will be there. But I still
Yep.
struggle with, or telling people like, yeah, I'm having a crappy day or I'm just going through something right now. And I might be a crappy friend right now. Or and it's not about you, it's about me. And
Right.
and you have to I think you have to be open about those things too to cultivate friendship, especially if it's someone new because, it's okay to be like, "You know what? I'm just going through crap and you may not hear from me or I may bother you, and this is who I am, accept it or not." And I think that's another thing too at our age that we have to be like, "Look, I not everyone's going to like me. Totally fine. I'm not going to like everybody either. Also,
Yeah.
totally fine." Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, getting older is complicated
It
sometimes.
it's tough out there. I wish I had the answer. Like it's one of those things where I wonder if people are listening for words of wisdom, and I think, unfortunately, as a guest, I don't think I provided any words of wisdom. I didn't provide any answers. I just kind of commiserated. So, like, if people have answers, put them in the comments, right?
Yeah, but I think sometimes, it is just when you just hear things, you're like, "Oh my god, I feel that way too." Sometimes that just is the answer you need is to feel like I'm not alone. We all are struggling to meet people, to make friends, to maintain friendship for a variety of reasons. And, like I've given suggestions of things I've done. Is that the answer to everything? Am I besties with all the people I've met? No, because sometimes, like, yeah, I'm like, why am I still the planner and nobody, or like how many times do I have to contact people, or I'm just tired and I don't want to go to something. Which is also the fun thing about being an adult. We're like, "The plans are canceled? Oh, darn." I'm so disappointed. which you're not, but yeah,
I'm
I'm
never disappointed when plans get canceled.
I'm not either. It's so as younger, I'd be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it's canceled." Yeah, but, yes, did we solve the mystery of making friends in midlife? No, because I don't know if there is. I think the main thing is just try to put yourself out there, know who you are, accept who you are, decide if you want to accept somebody for who they are, try things. They may work, they may not, and yes, if anybody else does have the answer, please let us know.
Yeah, I would love for some oh, and the funny part, I don't think it gets any easier from here. So, as someone who has an older parent, I would my mother's in her late 70s, and I would say it becomes a lot more difficult. And the weird thing is that for people that know these things, it's like, you would hope that if they knew those things, that it's harder to make friends so you're not lonely in your 70s and 80s and 90s, especially not to be down in the dumps, but, you're going to more funerals than you are weddings. So as your friend group ends up going away, it's much harder to not be lonely in your older years. So it's almost like if you can kind of like add friends in your 40s and 50s so that you're not as lonely in your 70s and 80s. But then it but then it would be a much more what's the word I'm looking for? A much more coordinated effort to get older. Like, you have to find a group of like-minded people who are like, "You know what? We're gonna get older. When we get to this age, we're gonna move to this complex and be together, and hopefully there's enough of us still alive that we that we have some friends in our older years, so we don't have to
Yes.
make friends when we're 75 or 80 years old." But
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
why, like,
probably a completely another episode.
yeah, well, I think that's why the Villages is so popular is because
Yeah.
older people are looking to not be lonely. I mean, there's some freaky deaky things going on. My dad lived there
There's a
for a
lot
little
of
while.
I heard there's a lot of upside down pineapples going on down there.
Yes, my dad lived there for a brief while after my mom passed away, and he was having like, he wasn't I don't wanna know, but
Well, I'll give you a fun fact. The Villages apparently has the highest rate of STDs per capita
yes,
in the entire country.
'cause they think they don't I can't get pregnant. I'm like, "You can get things." But yeah, you will see a lot of them have the golf carts, and there'll be things hanging off the golf carts that, like, indicate
Yeah, yeah.
stuff, and I'm like,
That's
"I didn't wanna know this as a"
it's
I'm like,
like it is old person Cancun spring break style. All
"Yeah,
day, like 365 days a year.
oh, yeah." Yeah, when we were taking my dad there, like, to the tour, and we met this older gentleman. I mean, well, everyone's old, but, like, we met this gentleman who had a girlfriend, and he had moved into, like, this assisted liv or, it was independent living that you could go to assisted living memory care. And he was like, "Yeah, I just told my girlfriend that, like, yeah, I can't live in a house anymore. I need an apartment and with a little more care, and you can come with me or not." And I'm like, "Okay." He's just telling us his whole life story. He's like, "And sometimes I go to her place for" I'm like, "I mhm, and sometimes she comes here." And I'm like, "Okay then." That's
Apparently, if you are an older gentleman living down there and you are single, apparently it's a paradise.
yeah, we had to have
Uh,
conversations with my dad that I did not wanna ever have as
yeah.
a yeah, and then he
Apparently
did
the ratio of men to women is it's very
yes, well,
favorable to the men apparently
I
because
know, I was
well,
like, "Dad."
on the other end of that, that means a lot of the guys are dying off sooner. So, they go if you survive, you're doing great. If not, well,
Like, it was just yeah, and he did have sort of there was a woman that, like, attached herself to him, and yeah, and found a card later, like, after my dad we had to move him here, and he passed away, but found a card, and I was just, like, so horrified by what she wrote 'cause she was, "I love you," and whatever, and I'm, like, sending it to my sister and brother, and, just, like, I
he was living his best life. That's
yeah, but and he had
that's
no idea, like, he was not feeling the same way about her, but that he just
yeah.
thought her was a friend, but, like, we my sister's like, "Do you think we should call her and tell her about dad?" 'Cause it was just so I was like, "This is not something that I think I was gonna have to, like, deal with when I was an adult," but hey, at least we know that, like, when it is harder as you get older, but there are places like the Villages where we can go get our, Gen X freak on, or maybe they'll open I just see people joke about
Yeah.
opening malls for us to go live in.
Hey, you know what? That that's another idea that's not a horrible idea
No, I like it.
because it's like you can live in a city, but you don't have to live in the city. 'Cause it's like those, town centers. Like, we have one around here, where basically it's like apartments and condos that are pretty much high rises for the most part, and then the lower 2 levels are all retail and restaurants, and, like, there's a Target in there, there's a Whole Foods in one of them. It's a neat place if you wanna go live there, but I got to imagine that's going to be more prevalent as we get older
Yes.
because the malls are dying, but they got to figure out what to do with them, and that's what they're doing with them. So
And I mean, we grew up in the mall, so it would be fun. I mean, if you're gonna get old, you might as well make it fun. And if they brought back all of our stores and maybe
talk about
I mean,
full circle, huh?
right? Or
Right.
Columbia House, like, because did you say Columbia? I didn't even know Columbia House was still around, but apparently they're just shutting down. And I was like, wow, they should just go after I mean, how many Gen Xers do? I'm sure I know I owe money to Columbia House. We
I'm
all
sure I
do.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, they
What is
should
it?
just help.
BMG and Columbia House. Those are the two
Yes.
big ones.
They should just open Columbia House and BMG places and then just be like, "Look, your name, please." Your aliases,
Right.
because we all would, like, change our names or use your middle name or you, like, reverse your to
Yeah.
get the yeah, so they'd be like, "And
Yep.
you owe this much money, so you're gonna go work at this store to" yeah. So maybe our
Although
retirement days will be fun.
a lot of us end up as lawyers, so they're probably like, you know what? I don't know shit. That got dismissed 20 years ago, and I know it. So you can
Yeah,
take that owed balance and make it zero for me.
statute of limitations, right?
That's
Like,
right.
yeah.
We'll be
Well,
real
there's
quick to be like, can I see your manager, please?
right. Get off my lawn. I know, yeah,
Yes.
excuse me, yeah. We'll just start dropping,
Get
like,
off my
curse words and yeah, your mama
get
jokes.
off my balcony.
It's funny because I know, like, when you get older, like, "Oh, you're gonna be." I don't wanna be one of those people, like, "Get off my lawn," but you get to the point you're like, "No, I get why people are like, 'Get off my lawn,'" 'cause it's just people. Or
I
just
I I
sometimes I'm like,
yeah, I wanna be I wanna be that person now. I wanna be get off my lawn, get off my porch, get on my face, everything. I'll be that person now. I have no qualms about that. Except for the kids. We got a lot of neighborhood kids. We got a lot of neighborhood kids, they play in the yard, I'm like, "I don't care." Because here's that, my girls don't play in the yard anymore, so someone else might as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it would be fun to be that grouchy old person. You're just sitting out in your lawn chair and just yelling at people and just random stuff like, you're just complaining about their car or the way they drove or the way they get their mail, just to be that grouchy person, just as pure
Mm.
entertainment. I mean, I feel like that's kinda Gen X coded, just to be obnoxious, just to be obnoxious. Because why not?
Who kno That might be how I make my next friend.
There
I'll have that I'll put you know what? I'll start that group. I'll start the grouchy old men group where only the grouchiest can come and sit on my front and we're gonna sit on my front porch and we're gonna yell at the neighborhood kids because they rode their bike on my lawn.
I love that's yes. I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast, like, Alex is starting a
Yes.
new group if anyone would like to join. Just all you need
I'll
is a
put it on
lawn chair,
Facebook for
comfy
anyone that
chair,
wants to
and
see
just
it.
come.
Yeah. I'll
I'm
even
sure
provide the
people would
chair.
sign up.
I got plenty of chairs. You don't have to pull that up. You can sit on
There
any
you
one
go.
of the 18 chairs I have. You'll be alright.
Now you know what? That could be a thing now, like, it goes viral, there are groups all over of just people just sitting on their lawn chairs, just being obnoxious
Hashtag
for fun.
grouchy porch guys, right? We'll start the
It's the
hashtag.
new grumpy old men.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Alex, so much for coming on the podcast again and,
Thanks for
for
having me.
helping us not solve the problem because, again, we don't know.
Yep,
We're just trying out here, people. We're just trying, but
that's right.
at least,
Solving
yeah, you have
nothing,
something
one
to,
podcast at a
go
time.
exactly. That's what the Gen X
Thank you,
experience
though.
is all about. We have no idea what we're doing, and we're very aware of it. Thank you so much to Alex for being our first repeat guest. It was really fun chatting with him. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you got something out of it. Which basically, yes, as as Alex joked, did we solve the mystery of why it's so hard? No, it just is. And I think the nice thing too of having the perspective of from guys and from women is that we're kind of all in the same boat. It's not easy. You have to be open. You have to put yourself out there, but it's okay to have boundaries and to accept that you're not gonna like everybody, and everybody's gonna like you, and that it's just I mean, I hate to use a Gen X term that we heard from our parents, "It is what it is, life's not fair," all of the cliches, but it's true. It's just being a human is complicated, and as you get older and you know more about yourself, sometimes I mean, not all of us, some people do need to be self-awareness is a thing that needs to happen. It's like you do know who you are, hopefully, and so that can sometimes make things easier, complicated. But if you want friends, find what you like, find groups that you're interested in. If you have old friends that you haven't talked to in a while, maybe reach out to them. If you have neighbors, if you have kids, maybe start talking to people that when you go to events, you could start something on your own. I see that online too. A lot of people will be like, hey, I'm trying to make friends. And you could just start it online. It could just be a Zoom thing or a Facebook group, and then it goes into IRL. Do some research online because there are groups out there. That's what I do. I try different things. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I've been here for 30 minutes. I want to go home. And there's nothing wrong with that. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you to Alex. I hope you enjoyed the series that I did extend into August because I'm the host and I can do what I want. So what is coming up next month? We're going to talk about the midlife slump from two different angles. So stay tuned for that. I think you'll quite enjoy it. We do have our book club announcement coming up soon. I'm trying something different on Fable, but we will have a discussion. We have perimenopause and menopause coming up in October, men's health in November. And December, I think we're just going to do something fun. We're going to look back at 1986 because it was a fun year for music and movies. And that's probably when we'll do our book club discussion. If you would like to be a guest on the show to talk about perimenopause, menopause, men's health, or just want to reminisce about back in the day, please let me know. You can find my email below. Be sure to rate and review the show. If you have anything to add to the conversation about making friends in midlife, email me or comment in the reviews and the ratings because I love to hear from you. And with that, my fellow Gen Xers, don't you forget about me because I won't forget about you. Until next time. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Gen X Experience. If today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it on social media or with a friend. We'll see you back here next time.